Hello and welcome back to Lessons from the Screen. Yeah, I know it's been forever. I'm surprised I'm not dead. Today with me is Vignesh. He is a friend and a fellow filmmaker. Today we're going to talk about, possibly, in my humble opinion, the best movie of our lifetimes, Oppenheimer. Vignesh, do you agree? Is this the best movie of our lifetimes?
It could be, but not. Like, there are better films than Oppenheimer. But as a character study, if you see like the exploration of Robert Oppenheimer's life through this film, it's obviously a path-breaking film in terms of the world that Chris Nolan has kind of created, right? So it's different in many ways. I mean, he's tried, experimented a lot of stuff in this film. That could kind of, at least we can argue that it's the best film of the year. I mean, at least the last year,
Yeah, 23.
23. Yeah.
So before we jump into Oppenheimer, tell us about yourself. Tell the audience about yourself. What have you done? Where can they see some of your work possibly? How can they contact you?
Okay. So basically, I'm an engineer turned filmmaker. I've been writing and directing stuff for the last 3-4 years now. And primarily, I've done short films and currently kind of moving on to long format, like developing a web series thing and the long format feature films. Yeah, that's about me.
And where can they find you? Where can they see your work?
So I've uploaded all my films on YouTube. So I have a channel called as a random thing, which I hope he'll add in the description
Yeah.
for the viewers to take a look. And yeah, you can find my films there.
Okay. Yeah, you've been moving to long movies from short films. Um Especially sometimes, just through the edit, you were like, this is a long film. You remember when we did A Week to Time
No
Travel?
big term time travel,
We
yeah.
started with the intention, this is a short film.
Short film, yeah.
And then I started editing and I was like, this is too much footage for a short film. I think this is, yeah.
So
Fun
yeah,
times.
we had that idea of making a 25-minute film, but I think over the course of shooting it and then kind of getting onto the edit table, it got extended to 57 minutes.
Yeah, it became a feature film.
Kind of, yeah. Because I think that was a self-discovery for us as well, like while making the film. We didn't
Very
know
much.
actually where were we going to end up, right? We didn't have something specific in mind कि let's make it इतने amount का एक film बनाना है, or let's say कि 1.5 घंटे का होगा, 2 घंटे का. We never had it. We just made it out of love, out of passion. Let's see, no one is helping us to make a film. Let's take an iPhone 10,
Yeah.
which we had at that point of time, and make it. Yeah.
Yeah. That was phenomenal. Like, really hats off. It's like he calls me one fine day and he's like, it was like, I'm not able to get any, producers, investors, fund financiers, anyone. Like, I've no resources. So tell me what is like a budget way to shoot a film. And I'm like, shoot it on whatever phone you have. And then he's like, no, I don't have a good phone. What is like a budget phone or a budget camera or something to get? And I was like, look at whatever is like the oldest, what is like the newest used iPhone you can afford. And this guy, he comes back to me a day later or something and he's like, I'm getting iPhone 10. And that was like dirt cheap, right? It was like throwaway money. It was
Yeah.
10,000 bucks, 12,000
Yeah,
bucks,
then
something.
12 it cost me second-hand iPhone. Yeah.
And I remember when the iPhone 10 came out, it was 1 lakh rupees. I remember there was like this big talk, right? Everyone was like, damn, $1,000 for a phone. And you're getting for 12,000 rupees, okay? And I was like, yeah, jump for it, but buy one for me. And then everything was shot on the iPhone. 4K, 24 FPS.
Yeah.
You can see the results for yourself on YouTube. It's really brilliant how far filmmaking has come on a phone. So coming to Oppenheimer. So when was like the first time you watched the movie? What was like your first few impressions, first reaction?
So it was basically the hype, right? It started with all of that, like 2 years before it was getting released, basically. I think by the end of 21, after Tenet released and you had that COVID wave going out, and everyone was kind of backslashing the Tenet thing.
Yeah.
This is not what we expected out of Nolan. And then kind of Oppenheimer gets announced. Like there was this idea that he's going to make a biopic, right? And we had those expectations. Okay, he's trying something new. It's a different genre for him, like a biopic. He's
Yeah,
never
that's
done
something
that,
he
right?
hasn't done. Yeah.
He's never done that. And so Oppenheimer the hype was there. Then the trailer released, and the trailer looked good actually. Pretty much good. I mean, what we expected. I mean, out of his movie. And once the trailer hit the screens, then the movie released. And my experience was, for the first time, I didn't watch it on the first day of its release, obviously, because there were no actually shows available online.
Okay.
Like everyone was like, everything was packed. Actually, there were not tickets available. So I watched it a week later, and I watched it on an IMAX screen.
Okay.
That was my first experience. And then I again revisited on a different normal 2D screen as well.
Okay, not IMAX.
Not an IMAX again. So I just wanted to see what the difference was.
For the three people who are listening, one of them is possibly not from India. So I'd like to tell you that India doesn't have any real IMAX screens. Like there is no 70 film projector.
projection.
All of this is like digital IMAX projectors, laser IMAX. You know, some sort of digital equivalents, but no 70
No 70 film projections are there. Yeah.
Carry on.
So yeah, that was the first experience. I mean, the IMAX experience. I think that was a laser projection. I think it was the RCT one in Ghatkopar.
Okay.
And I think it was a great experience. I mean, to watch that, I mean, let's say it's a spectacle evolve in front of you on the screen, going through those moments that he's created on screen, like the entire Trinity test, and then the whole involvement of, like, there are too many characters, right? I think this was his first attempt at creating so many characters on screen.
But the story kind of required it.
Yeah, it
But-
required,
but yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the first time he's done that actually on screen. Like, if you look back at all his films, there aren't many characters.
Correct.
And there's been always this, I think I've heard a lot from people that he's not good at characters,
Okay.
in showcasing characters.
Okay. So this time he was like,
Yeah.
say, hold my beer.
So I think he pulled that off pretty much well this time, because Nolan, I mean, if you go to his movies, it's all about the spectacle that people want to see. I mean,
Correct.
you
That
see
is
an
true.
Inception, you want to see Interstellar unfold, you want to see the action scenes from the Dark Knight series,
True that.
right? You want to see the magnanimous, I mean, visuals of the Prestige, I mean, the magician's world and stuff like that.
correct,
So he's known for that. And there's been always this, I mean, a certain class of people who kind of complain, saying that we can't connect with your characters.
It's all show, no.
It's all show, there's no emotion in your characters. But I don't believe in that, because I've connected with all his characters. I mean, be it the DiCaprio's character from Inception, or be it Matthew McConaughey from Interstellar. But this time I think he had, I mean, the way he structured the screenplay, or the way he wrote those characters, I mean, everyone has equal weightage in terms of
True.
in the film, right?
True.
So that was one thing I got, I mean, I appreciate him for that, for doing that in this film. And this film required, actually, because all of them are real life personalities as well, right? There's no fictional characters.
And all of them are like, most of them are great scientists.
Most of them
for
are
example,
great
like,
scientists, yeah.
Bose.
Bose,
is,
you take a
is
Bose, you take a Heisenberg, there's a Einstein.
Yeah, you see Bose, his character is like there for only a few minutes on the screen.
Yeah, but still they.
But anybody who studied science knows
that.
Yeah, exactly.
They're great scientists, yeah.
It's like, see, as a science student, when I went to watch the movie the first time, I was like, you know, that Leonardo DiCaprio meme, like, this guy.
This
the
guy, I know this guy, I know.
That's a science student. You're like,
Wait a minute.
Einstein. And then there's Bose. and you know, it's like, yeah, Heisenberg. Not the Breaking
Breaking Bad.
Not the Breaking Bad Heisenberg.
But yeah, so I think this one thing he pulled it off very, I mean, pretty good, this film. And yeah, that was the first thing I noticed while watching the film. Even though knowing that there's going to be this big Magnus explosion going on in the film, but that didn't. I mean, that was part of the film. Okay, one part. Yeah.
But they haven't made the whole movie about
it. Yeah.
Kaboom. Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason why I feel it is one of the best movies, if not the best movie to come out in our lifetime, is the movie is a giant spectacle. It looks beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
There's a lot of tech that has gone behind, and a lot of honest, authentic tech. Like there is tech which is sort of anti-tech, the lack of tech. Like there is, you know, it's like how the explosion was actually done. It's
Practical
not VFX.
effects. Yeah.
Similarly, instead of shooting on a red weapon, monstro, whatever, they have shot it on film, right? But all of it is used to somehow amplify the story.
Amplify the story. Yeah.
It is not like Marvel movies. Don't come at my home to beat me. But yeah, I don't want to be mob lynched. But Marvel movies, not just Marvel, a lot of movies use the effects, the VFX, just for the sake of it. Just for, you know.
By the way, Marvel also uses IMAX cameras, but they are digital cameras.
Yeah, but it's not real IMAX.
I mean, they are IMAX cameras.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely getting beaten after this episode. Eh?
Yeah, but if you see, I mean, the use of film for this film, I mean, using 70 for this film, I think it's necessary also because it's a
You see,
period
that's what
film.
I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's not,
yeah.
you know, tech, whatever tech is used is not just to, you know, it's like, oh yeah, we can, because we can. Like, for example, Mandalorian was, if I'm not wrong, Mandalorian was like the first movie of its scale.
It's a
to
series,
be,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, so it was the first thing to be shot of
On
its
those
scale.
LED screens, yeah.
But why?
Projection screens, yeah.
No, it's cool tech.
It's cool
It's
tech,
cool
yeah.
tech. It's just like ChatGPT, for instance. Very cool, really great. I'm very, you know, like proud. I appreciate that you could achieve that. Like, no, it's genuinely cool. But why?
Because Kevin Feige said that.
What?
Like, Disney wants to do it.
Like, but why? Like, you know, I appreciate it's great technology, right? You know, there's this YouTuber called MKBHD. He has this video explaining either the same setup or a setup very similar to that. There was the same like virtual display setup where, you know how our movies are shot at 24 FPS and YouTube content is at 30 FPS.
30, yeah.
So if you are shooting a 30 FPS scene on that stage, on that screen, the screen would move at 60 FPS. It would sync automatically with the cameras which are shooting at 30 FPS. So you can actually have the wide and the close-up shots being shot at the same time. Because this camera was synced at a different 30 frames and the alternate frames were the close-up wale frames which was synced with this other. Kaboom. Great stuff. Really amazing. I know, genuinely amazing tech. But why? But why? Why don't you just like, see, I can understand sometimes you cannot shoot because you don't have the budget, or sometimes you cannot shoot because, let's say there's a global pandemic going on and you cannot go outside. But not always.
It's technology, you need to embrace
Well,
it.
I appreciate it, it's great technology. But again, you know, a lot of movies do this. Like, there is great tech, but why? I think Oppenheimer doesn't fall into that trap.
Yeah, he doesn't.
He the movie avoids using tech just for the sake of like, look at me, I have tech. Yeah, I have big tech. I think the movie avoids falling into that trap. It does a great job of, as you said, you know, like it's shot on 70 film. Because it's period specific. It makes sense. It completely makes sense. Similarly, the movie has used a lot of. So something I noticed. Let's go start with my notes. I noticed something. The movie has used a lot of change in the ambient noise to show transition from scene to scene.
Okay.
It's like, for example, when this guy figures out that Robert Downey Jr. was the mastermind behind all of this.
Yeah.
He explains Robert Downey Jr. that you know I've understood your game, yeah. And then so far the room is relatively quiet, and there is some distant chatter happening outside. It's relatively quiet. He opens the door. All the chatter comes in. All the white noise, all the people talking comes in. Kind of snaps out Robert Downey Jr. and it snaps you out of the scene. Reminds you, okay, the scene is now over. It's like, you know, it's like the ball has been dropped. There is no comeback. Robert Downey Jr.'s character has no comeback.
No comeback.
And I think the movie has used this kind of transitions in ambient noise very well to show transition in a scene.
So he does it both ways, I think, the use of sound as well, and using cinematography as a tool to also distinguish between those two moments. Like, so the whole movie is about Oppenheimer and Louis Strauss. Like, Louis Strauss having this kind of egoish, or let's say grudge against Oppenheimer,
Correct.
that
Correct.
he kind of what do you say, insulted him in front of the commission, right, during the isotopes meet,
Correct.
and it's the frustration that he's taking out
Yeah.
on him. So he separates it out visually very clearly. I mean, the scenes where we see the story through Struis Loss's point of view, it's actually black and white fully.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the sequences where you see the story or the scenes through Oppenheimer's perspective is actually color. So that's a very good use of, I think, cinematography to kind of distinguish between the ideologies of both these characters and take the narrative forward. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, while we are at Marvel and getting me lynched, Robert Downey Jr.'s acting in this is very good. I think everyone's acting is very good. See, that's the thing why I said, it's a movie that is, I think, the best movie of our lifetimes, in my opinion, is because there's nothing shit about this movie. There's nothing wrong. You cannot say this was wrong. Like the cinematography, good or above average. It's good or above that. Like it's okay or better. Editing, good or better. Everyone's acting. It's either good or very good or phenomenal or something. Nothing is like, oh, this was bad, this was wrong. Which is becoming more and more rare in our times.
So I think that's the director's job, I think,
Uh-huh.
to pull off everything so close to each other. I mean, to blend it in a way that you won't sit down and point out that, oh my god, this is looking off,
Yeah,
this is bad, this is not working.
It's a
the
well
film.
orchestrated
It's well
show.
orchestrated film, right?
Yeah.
That's why you're kind of hooked throughout the film, right? You don't sit in a moment and you point out that, oh my god, this music is not working for me, or let's say this performance of this particular character or actor is not going the way I wanted. It's looking bad on screen.
There is nothing that is emotion breaking.
Yeah, it's not. Because he blends it so beautifully through editing, through sound, through music, through cinematography, everything.
So coming to Robert Downey Jr.'s character, I think the acting Robert Downey Jr. has done is very good. And it's a refresh. It's like, there are faint glimmers of hope that this guy still knows good acting.
Yeah.
Like given everything he's done in Marvel, he was just becoming one of the normie actors. Like, yeah, I come, I do something, and I go, I get money. In this, he looked like he has actually put in the time and effort.
I think he's done something different, right? And also the age factor comes in, right? He's played a kind of a bit of an old character.
Older than he is.
Older than he is, right?
Yeah.
So that's something different that we've seen, right? Because if you look at his filmography as well, he did 10, 15 years of obviously Marvel, the Ant-Man thing.
Yeah.
So he had built up that image, right? And in between, before Marvel, I think he'd done a lot of movies, and in between as well. I think he'd done Sherlock Holmes as well.
Yeah.
And there was a war movie, I think, that he did, which had slight different characters. And he had a biopic of Chaplin as well.
Correct. And his acting has been very.
Yeah.
I think it's like, it's like Marvel was like this dust on, let's say, a diamond stone or something.
Yeah, because if you do something, you are playing the same character for over 10 years.
It's not creative.
yeah.
It's not.
Let's not say creative, but you get typecasted,
It's
right?
not the same.
You have created an image of you in front of an audience, right? And when something like this character of Strauss that comes up, you kind of break barriers, right?
Yeah,
Getting
you
out of
have
that
kind of
zone.
forces you to.
Yeah, and kind of getting out of that Marvel zone and then doing something like a Strauss is great.
True. So I noticed one thing. The aspect ratio in the movie keeps changing. The movie goes between being 16:9 to having CinemaScope.
Okay.
And from what I and my friend, I was watching with a friend last night, and from what we both could tell, we couldn't find a pattern, so to speak. Like we can't figure out why it goes between 16:9 and Do you have any idea? Can you shed some light?
So I think this is because you've not seen the IMAX version, right?
I have seen the IMAX version.
Obviously,
in the
I mean,
theatres,
in
of course.
theaters the aspect ratio is the same.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no difference.
At least it didn't stand out to me, so I don't think it
Yeah.
was because I would have noticed.
Yeah, because the IMAX it's the same wide format, right? And I think this is some sort of, what do you say, the conversion that these guys do for the digital version or for the normal screen, I guess.
Could
because the IMAX version that I watched on screen had the same, what do you say, aspect ratio, the full frame.
No, of the IMAX, the
Yeah.
tall.
Yeah, the 70 wala jo bhi full frame hai. But then when I watched it on a normal 2D screen,
Yeah, yeah.
they again had that 2.21 is
The CinemaScope.
CinemaScope wala.
Yeah.
Because they had then chopped off all the ends,
The top and
the top
bottoms,
and bottoms,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And digital mein, if you see again, you have the same CinemaScope. If you
It's
watch
weird.
it, if you watch it on Jio Cinema.
I noticed it was jumping between 16:9 and CinemaScope. Most was in CinemaScope. Some shots were in 16:9.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be just a mastering thing.
Mastering
possibly,
thing, yeah. Because this shouldn't happen, at least for this film, because this has been shot entirely
Completely on the
IMAX.
yes.
But if you watch other of his films, like let's say for a
The Dark Knight trilogy has this.
The Dark Knight, at least the second one, the Joker one. So there, I agree that there are shifts in the aspect.
Because some of it is digital and some of
it's-
it is shot on IMAX, right?
Yeah, no, matlab, some of has been only certain amount of footage is shot on IMAX.
Most of it is in digital.
No, on 70 but not IMAX film.
Oh.
Other film,
Okay,
the normal
okay,
one,
okay.
Kodak ka or jo bhi.
Acha, acha. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, didn't know
So
that.
those versions may have that CinemaScope, but the portion shot on IMAX, especially if you see the entry scene for Dark Knight, the Joker entry scene, the entire bank robbery, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, that is shot
That
on
is
IMAX.
entirely shot on IMAX. That will have kind of a full screen.
Interesting. So do you recommend anybody to? I think, is it too late to recommend people to watch it on IMAX? Yes, because I don't think Oppenheimer is in theaters anymore.
It's not in theaters.
But okay, so let's put it like this. My friend yesterday, he had watched He had watched Oppenheimer twice before yesterday, both times on his computer. So do you think people like him, who haven't watched it on IMAX yet, are they missing out on something?
Obviously, you are missing it out, right? Because it's at least a one-time experience. I mean, if you're crazy, go and watch multiple times. Not an issue. But I suggest you watch it at least once in your lifetime in a theater screen. Because I've regretted that for previous of his films.
Which one?
Like the first film of his that I watched was Interstellar, and I've regretted not watching it on an IMAX screen during its release. So
I haven't watched those on IMAX either, the earlier ones.
but I did watch it. I think sometime this year or last year. They did a re-release I think last year only. Yeah, Oppenheimer released last year. So before the Oppenheimer release, they had a 1 week release where they did release all of his films. So at that point, I did watch Interstellar on an IMAX screen.
For me, about this movie, I knew this movie is coming, but I didn't watch the trailers because I usually don't watch trailers. When the movie came out, it was around last June, July, something.
Yeah.
I was in Patna at my nani's place, and there is no IMAX theaters, not even the fake digital ones. So I had to go and watch it in a normal theater, right? In a normal 2D normal screen. It was I got a somewhere back seat somewhere, I don't know, one of the top rows. It was okay. I was like, dialogues are nice, the editing is good, but it's okay. It's okay. It's not as, I didn't feel it as amazing. Honestly, there was like some tall guy sitting in front of me who was covering like half the screen. I'm like, why are you so tall, man? Like, bro, like height wise बैठो तुम पीछे आओ मैं आगे जाता हूँ. Then I came to Mumbai, and a friend told me, let's go and watch Oppenheimer in IMAX. He hadn't watched it. And we have Seawoods Mall right here, right? 10 minutes from my place. If I'm not wrong, they have one of the best or the best IMAX screens in Mumbai.
They do have laser projection as well. That's
I think they're the only IMAX laser projector in Mumbai.
no, our city also has.
It's
but
one of the
yeah.
It's one of the very good ones, and it's literally 10 minutes from my place. So one fine morning, I wake up at 7 a.m. Half asleep because the tickets were cheap in the morning. So I wake up at 7 a.m. half asleep. I drag myself to the theater, and I am blown away. First of all, what stands out to me is how much better the speakers were. How much better the sound system was. I'm not sure if IMAX does IMAX like only approve theaters that have some sort of speaker
So
system?
IMAX has their own version of sound, right?
Okay.
Because what I know is that it's a 70 film, right? So 65 of it is allotted to the visual part of it.
Okay.
5 the side reels are kind of allotted to the sound. So they do have their own sound tech as well.
Did not know this.
Yeah.
So the sound is insanely amazing. Blows me away. I am completely up. I'm not sleepy anymore. I love the frame. It's huge.
Which is, yeah.
And because the frame is huge, you can see film grains much better.
Yeah, much better.
It's like porn on the screen. Like you can see, it's like butter. It's like butter. Like you ask any cinematographer, they'll tell you, any photographer, cinematographer, DOP, they'll tell you, like it's like butter on the screen. There's like
texture
grains.
of it, yeah.
It's like you can, it's like reach and touch it, like hold the cheeks of Oppenheimer. Okay, sir. Yes. Okay. that went a little awkward. But it gives you depth.
Yeah.
It's like something that digital is completely missing. You cannot achieve that sense of, it's right in front of you. Like you can go and grab it types. I really loved that. That is what stood out the most to me watching on the second time on IMAX. How much more real it feels.
Yeah.
Then of course, we'll come to dialogues and stuff.
Yeah. So there's a difference as well. I mean, the viewing experience for IMAX and the 2D screens. So the IMAX screen is so huge that your focus is not just on one particular point. I mean, you're obviously focused where the character is on screen, but you still have a lot of space available where you want to watch. I mean, you gaze around the entire screen constantly.
This is something I did a lot as.
So that doesn't happen on a normal 2D screen.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I like about the IMAX screen, the hugeness of it. And another thing is like the seating arrangement for IMAX itself. I mean, obviously the middle seats do give you the best experience. I mean, the centered ones.
Okay.
But try sitting on one of the first or second rows for an IMAX screen. The image is directly on your face.
Okay. I do agree that the screen is huge enough that there were times when the action is happening on, let's say, the bottom left of the screen. I'm looking on the top right, the grains are looking great.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, those grains, man. And like the action is happening here.
Yeah. And that kind of helps during like huge action scenes, right? And there are huge action pieces going on. And like if you, for example, if I tell you like for a scene from The Dark Knight, the truck toppling scene.
Yeah.
Imagine watching that on such a huge screen. And the entire screen is kind of filled with the truck. And then it kind of gets toppled.
Correct.
The experience of it is great.
Much different.
Much different.
So coming to adjacent to this screen size and all, something I realized is set design was amazing.
Yeah.
Set design was very meticulously done. There were no Starbucks cups left on the table.
That's an HBO issue. The HBO Warner Brothers issue. That's why he shifted to Universal this time.
Yeah, I'm sure they were like, Starbucks का cup रखना पड़ेगा. No, but in all seriousness, the set design was done very well. There's a lot of like small things which are somewhere in the corner of the frame that is like you're watching the first time, which is what most people do. Most people watch a movie once and then no matter how amazing it is, they don't go and rewatch it. Despite like small things in the corner, a lot of attention was paid, right? Like there are these scenes inside the buildings in this thing, the Trinity test site. What was it called?
Los Alamos.
Yeah, in Los Alamos, there's a lot of scenes which are like inside the buildings. Him talking to other scientists, him talking to those security people. And like there's a scene when he goes and sits at the desk with her security guy, the guy with round glasses,
Uh-huh.
and he's like, there's some guy, just look out for him.
Mm-hmm.
And the lamp on the table, it's just meticulous attention. Meticulous attention to such small things, which is again, in my opinion, is what makes a great movie great, right?
It's choice of color palette as well. I mean, the way the color palette of all his films, and if you compare it with this, I mean, there's less amount of saturation as well.
Yeah.
You see those very mild grays and blue things going on. He's used throughout the film. I mean, that too much dark stuff used. I mean, dark colors used for this film as well.
So yeah, agreed. Another thing that so in this whole Los Alamos scene, almost every time when they're outdoors, there's something like flying in. What is that?
I think that the desert wala
Sand and
stuff.
pollen and stuff. What else really stood out to you in this movie? What else do you
I
think?
think the editing. I mean, he kind of, I'm not sure did he learn it from or bettered it from Tenet, but he did a very good job with the editing. I mean, he changed his editor obviously for this film. Some new editor, also I think won the Oscar for it.
Yeah.
But the way he edited this film, with a lot of intercuts going on
Yeah.
throughout right from the film starts, right from the first scene itself. Like first scene you have, I mean, the first shot is the ripples on the water
on the
pavement, outside the university.
Correct.
Then he cuts back to Oppenheimer's close-up shot.
Yeah.
Then you have these instantaneous cuts of the explosions and
the
collisions
bombs
happening.
and
So he does that throughout the film. I mean, whenever Oppenheimer's characters in some thought or thinking about the repercussions of whatever he's doing, so he does that a lot. But it works out in this film. I mean, if you watch a lot of, if you see majority of Indian films, when they kind of use this intercuts, right, when a character is thinking, they cut back to some stuff.
Yeah, it feels like spoon feeding.
It feels like spoon feeding.
Yeah.
But in this film, it doesn't.
Yes.
It actually blends in with what the character is thinking and what that character actually feeling in
I
that
think
moment.
the music and the whole sound design has played a huge role in it. Actually, the sound design of this movie is very strong. Like, you know how a lot of people say that video is 30% of the picture and audio is 70?
50-50.
Nolan, somebody told Nolan, video is 30% of the picture, audio is 70. He's like, okay, got it. This was taken very, I think audio in this movie and like the whole sound design, everything has been taken very seriously. So we've just moved into this house, new house. And this is the second movie I've watched in this house so far. And for the first movie, I watched it on my editing machine, my editing monitor. And the monitor has speakers in it. And they're fairly good. They're fairly good. I've just watched it on that and it was fine. This movie, I started like that. You know, the first scene where there's water droplets and then close up of Oppenheimer. And then there's the scene when the bomb is exploding. It's like you see the orange gases and it's written Prometheus brought fire to yada yada. And you know, there my brain subconsciously I somehow remembered. I am supposed, the music in that scene, I'm not supposed to hear it, I'm supposed to feel it in my chest. It didn't happen. And then I like went looking for where have I kept the speakers, the home theater speakers. And at night, I'm sleepy. I spent 30 minutes looking for the home theater speakers. And you know, faith would have it, I found everything. I was not able to find the power cable. I spent like another 30 minutes looking for it, but I was like, this is like non-negotiable. I'm watching it either with a proper home theater speaker or I'm not watching the movie, I'm going to bed. It's that kind of movie. The sound is just so well done. You need a giant subwoofer next to you if you want to watch this movie. Because you want to feel that bass, you want to feel that thump in your chest. You don't want to hear it. Trust me. If you have, like my friend, he had only watched the movie both times on his computer with his headphones and he was like, no, I completely understood the whole movie. I've used headphones. So I've heard everything. I'm like, but you haven't felt the bass. You're not getting
because I mean, the one scene for which I would definitely want everyone to watch it on IMAX is the Trinity explosion
The
scene.
explosion scene, yes.
Because I've experienced it on both screens, and you actually feel the explosion in the IMAX version of it. The 2D version, you actually don't feel the. I mean, there's no much involvement or the feeling of it.
Definitely, like
But during the IMAX watch, you actually feel the.
like you're blown away.
Blown away, yeah. You actually feel the explosion happening in front of you.
Yeah, you feel like something hit you. Yeah.
Something hit you for a moment. Like, ठीक है, अभी explosion हुआ and you're standing right in front of it. Just like the characters are in the film.
I also really like that you're talking about the explosion. There's this few seconds
The delay.
between the explosion happening
Yeah.
and the sound.
Yeah,
And there's like pin drops and music cuts off. There's pin drop silence.
That works scientifically, obviously, because light travels faster than
sound.
So that's why you see the explosion first, and then you kind of see the
And there's
hear
both,
the
right?
sound.
It does both, right? There's a scientific reason light travels faster than
Yes,
sound.
it works cinematically as
It
well.
works cinematically because you know they cut off the music at that time.
Cut off the music, huh?
So you
You're
are genuinely.
you're expecting ki what I'm
It's
going to hear.
not just the expectation; it's also the genuine awe of what is happening on the screen, right? Because like your one sensory organ is free, so now you're completely focusing
Focus
on
on the visual, huh?
wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like because like the first time you watch it, it's genuinely like wow. It's a giant explosion. There are many explosions. It just goes on for a while. It's very nicely done.
And one thing I noticed, I mean, rewatching it now, he planted it in a very subtle way. I mean, during the tests that they do, right, during the while preparing for the Trinity test, he does one or two small explosions.
Yeah.
So it's shown there as well. I mean, the visual takes place first. I mean, there's a blast, and then a couple of seconds later, you hear the sound.
Yeah.
So he plants it there very subtly.
Okay, this
This is what's going to happen in the next
yeah.
couple of minutes. Like,
correct.
and then he kind of pays it off with the final explosion. Yeah.
So, what do you think is like the moral of the movie? What is the movie trying to tell us? Like,
So I think it has two perspectives. I mean, the way he pulled it off. I mean, there's this constant Oppenheimer's character. I mean, if you see the arc in this film, I mean, he starts out as this very confused or introverted kind of a character, wanting to get into quantum physics, learn from the greats, then actually learning quantum physics, publishing a couple of papers, and then kind of when he's pulled into this Trinity test as a project director, he's become very ambitious sort of a character where he wants to lead this project and he wants to kind of break through what Einstein didn't do or like the Germans weren't able to pull it off.
yeah.
And he becomes too very much ambitious with this. I think this is what the world is going to be. This is the future. We're going to do something great. Or actually realizing what the effects
The
or
consequences
the
of it
consequences of this nuclear weapon is going to be like. And then once they create it and they are in the awe of it, we've created something great. And then he slowly gets into that phase where he starts realizing whether my creation is going to create a lot of harm to this world. Have I created this in the first place? And getting into that dilemma towards the end of the film constantly. So I love that arc of his. And then there's this other character of Louis Strauss who's kind of insulted in one of the things.
And it
In
takes it to the
basic
heart.
moments, I mean, the first time he meets Oppenheimer as well. And he kind of tells that I'm the son of a shoesman.
Yeah.
And Oppenheimer kind of like very casually kind of
jokingly
says that you are a lowly shoesman.
Yeah.
And he kind of takes it from that moment itself. I mean, the character is in that way. And it kind of gets heightened up towards the end. I mean, the meetings that he goes and he's insulted in front of all. He opposes the hydrogen bomb. And yeah, so the other character also, I mean, it's a very, I mean, the antagonist, as an antagonist, he kind of brings out more from Oppenheimer.
To me, I feel that Oppenheimer, it's a great movie for our times because it has a great message for our times. Today, tech is developing faster than ever before. And it seems like, you know, in Jurassic Park there's this line, you were so busy making it, you didn't stop to ask if you should be making it. What's this guy, what's his character's name?
The main character, I think.
No, the guy who said this line in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, the owner, no?
No, it's the scientist. Anyway, that's the point. So the point is, like, today, tech is developing, is progressing at a faster pace than ever. And we are genuinely in a point where, you know, it's like, we have kind of realized that we have already made tech that we shouldn't have, or that we are already suffering from. For example, our smartphones and social media. I know every time you say this, there will be like 3 people who will be like, no, actually, you know, it is the natural course of... And then 2 days later, you find them complaining, I'm just wasting too much time on Instagram. I'm like, exactly, that's what I was telling you.
But yeah, see, so...
And it's not just Instagram and phones. I think those are somehow, I don't know, maybe it could be wrong, but they are like the lesser of the evil. The fact that now we have AI, we have tools, we have LLMs, we have tools like ChatGPT and many other, right? Apple has their own thing, Google has their own thing. Has anybody stopped to ask if we should have these things? Like, what is the repercussion of this on the society? Like, we're already seeing, for example, the elections we just had in India a few months ago. They were, I think, the first major big democracy having an election after ChatGPT coming out, if I'm not wrong. And you must have noticed this year, fake news was rampant. And you see the election that is coming in November in USA. I think this is the first election in USA after this ChatGPT and deepfake and AI training videos and all of this has come out. And you look at stuff that is already going south in US right now. You can, you know, there was this, as soon as Midjourney and all these picture generative AI came. Last year at some point there was a picture of Pope wearing a Balenciaga jacket. It had, in that picture, Pope had 6 fingers, 7 fingers, something. So you and me, the tech literate people, we were like, this is AI generated. Right, but there were people who were pissed. They were like, Pope is wearing a Balenciaga jacket. I've no idea about Balenciaga, but I'm sure it was a few $1,000s. And of course, if you were a devout Christian who works hard, probably makes a few thousand. No, if you were, imagine, and you made a few $1,000s a month or a quarter or something, you're a hardworking person, and from that earning you're donating something to the church. All of a sudden you see the head of I don't know if Pope is the head of I'm not sure. See, I don't know if Pope is the head of the religion or not, but he's like a very important person in this religion, and you know, you're making $1,000 a month and you're trying to save from that and trying to have your medical insurance, and you're donating to the church and you see the Pope wearing Balenciaga, of course you'll be pissed, right? And see, people quickly came out and said, hey, this is AI generated, but you know, this just opens the floodgates, right? And where the makers of ChatGPT and Midjourney, all of them paying attention, are they still paying attention to this? I think not. It's like when you see this guy, Sam Altman. ChatGPT was owned by some organization which was, I think, also OpenAI, and they were supposed to be like non-profit and make sure that you know, AI is not used for doing stuff like this, defaming other people, causing, you know, social harm, etc., etc. And then like this whole thing with Sam Altman and Microsoft happened. It was like a crazy weekend.
They removed him as well, I think.
And now then he was back, and like it's just crazy. So I'm like, so what does this mean? Is that organization whose job it was to be a non-profit and make sure that, you know, tools like ChatGPT and DALL-E don't fall into, don't enable wrongdoers? Is that organization still in place? Do they still technically own OpenAI, or is OpenAI now just Microsoft and we are all in for the profits? We're all for stocks go up.
I think they're separate, I think. Microsoft doesn't own them, obviously.
After the whole thing that happened, do they or do they not?
No, they don't, I think.
But then if they don't, then how were they able to just be like, okay bro, you can leave now? If I don't own the house, then I can say you can leave from the house. That means I own the house. Well, that means I have enough power, right? You may not own it legally, but that means... Anyway, let's not get into the whole techno-politics. The point is, I think Oppenheimer is a movie that reminds us that,
Yeah, it reminds and also
it gives us a reminder that you can lift the stone without being ready
Hiding
for the snake,
snake to-
that is hiding behind the stone.
So it also kind of gives you, I mean, gives you a reality check of the world we live in, right? As you mentioned. So if you see, I mean, from a creator's perspective, right? I mean, Oppenheimer, and when you're in the position of a creator, like you want to create something, so you just work for it. You don't think of the after effects or the repercussions. You're so kind of engrossed into the idea of creating something that's kind of going to change the entire world, right? So that's what kind of consumed Oppenheimer, I think, wholly. And the film as
But
well.
is this movie, I feel, this movie is like urging us as creators to look at what we are creating.
It does.
And
I mean,
be very mindful that, it's
it
like...
does, but I think during the process of creating, you kind of don't get into that. You don't
that
delve
is
into
true.
that.
That is true.
Yeah, you actually don't delve into that. I mean,
That is
that
true.
happens.
We've all done
I
that.
mean, that's human tendency.
We have all done that,
We've
yes.
all done that. So that's the same case. And once you've developed something and you know that this has some, I mean, it has these possibilities, and kind of what happened. I mean, like the case of OpenAI. So there was just one ChatGPT that came out, right?
Yeah, correct.
And now every other tech company is wanting to build their own AI.
There's a Gemini and there's an Apple Intelligence.
There's everyone.
And there's...
So the same thing happens in the movie as well.
Yes.
And he kind of, Oppenheimer kind of tries to avoid that. He says that we've created the nuclear bomb. The war is over. There's no Germany. Germany has surrendered. The Japanese don't need an ultimatum to kind of...
Yeah, because they're already a small, weak country.
They're already a small,
etc.
weak country. So you don't need to kind of create those explosions or drop bombs over them. But he also says that if you do that, they might retaliate. Then there's Russia as well, who might also create their own bombs. So why do you want to show that you are a superpower?
Yeah, I agree with you.
So he avoids that because he realizes the after effects after creating the bomb. And he kind of tries to convey that to the officials or say the people at higher powers.
Yeah.
But again, it's geopolitics.
Yeah, and he's kicked out of the whole office.
He's kicked out of the office. Truman kind of abuses
Says, don't let in this criteria ever
Truman
again.
abuses him. So that's the case. I mean, it's the case overall. I mean, you take it in any field, take it in any aspect of life, that's the thing. I mean, when there are bigger powers above you who are controlling you and you don't have that part to say or have a say to...
It's not your last call.
It's not your last call saying that this is my creation, I'll have a control over it. So that's what's going to happen, right? And if obviously one person kinds of creates an impact through one product or through one thing, others obviously want to get into the race.
True that.
Because that's how the market
That's
works.
how humans work.
Humans work,
Yes.
the markets work.
So this is the other thing that stood out to me yesterday while I was watching the movie. There's a lot of times when it says this bomb is going to end all wars.
Yeah.
Right. But did it?
No. So that's what, I mean, while creating it, they had one purpose that we need to show that we have a bomb. When we do show to the world that we have this bomb, we've created.
But it did end the Second World War, but that doesn't mean there's no
the
wars.
purpose of creating a bomb was to kind of fight back the Germans, right? See that Germany is growing up, Hitler won't leave us. So let's create a bomb and show him that we'll wipe you off.
True that.
But that didn't, I mean, the purpose changed over the course of 2-3 years while creating the nuclear bomb.
Yeah. It turned into more of a flex.
I mean, the intention of creating the bomb was something else. And till the time it got created and it got experimented, the intentions and the purpose.
It was just like, okay, we have spent $2 billion, let's
spent
flex.
because after the bomb was created, it was like you used so many resources, you spent 2 years of your life and you spent $2 billion creating something. What the hell are you going to say to the normal public?
True that.
You have to answer to the way, obviously, because it's the money of the tax giving people.
Taxpayers,
right? Taxpayers, yeah. So in order to kind of control those dynamics, control
and
the
no,
people,
to some degree,
yeah,
it did reduce war for a bit. For example, there's this nuclear clock in, I don't know, Switzerland or somewhere. I'm not sure. That clock When, if I'm not wrong, when that clock strikes 12, we'll have a all-out nuclear war.
Okay.
And like during the Cold War, that clock was closer. Then when Russia was formed, USSR broke down, Cold War ended, the clock went a little further. Then it came back a little closer when the Russia-Ukraine war started. So it's true in a way that we've never had a third world war.
Yeah.
But how does that matter to, let's say, somebody in Gaza, somebody in Ukraine right now, somebody in Kashmir right now? To them, they've been living through a war, right? Like you ask Kashmiris, especially a lot of people who migrated from Kashmir to other parts of India, they've spent a lifetime in this war, right? They can't go back home.
Go back home.
So for them, like, what's the difference if it's not a third world war? Okay, the people who migrated from Kashmir to other parts of India, they might say, oh, at least there's a difference. We had somewhere to migrate to. But imagine the people who died. Or imagine the people who still live there under a constant fear. That's same as a World War III for them.
But that's the way, I mean, again, it boils down to who has the power to run the place or the world. I mean, if you closely watch the movie, there's a scene where these army people are kind of taking calls as to on which place do we need to drop the bomb.
Yeah.
And and the guy who actually orders that, I've shortlisted 11 places and I don't want you to. I want you to take off Kyoto off the list. I mean, I've taken Kyoto off the list because I and my wife honeymooned there. I mean, that was a choice, right? I mean, they could have easily decided, let's not drop the bomb, but they still said that they gave reasons saying that, okay, we've spent so much time, we've spent so much money. What do we answer our own people? I mean, we need to cater to our own people. We need to cater to our own vote bank.
See that scene where he says, "Don't drop it on Kyoto because I and my wife went there for the honeymoon." That just shows the inherent
the hypocrisy.
red tape, corruption, hypocrisy, the absolute bullshit of this whole industrial war, the war industry complex. You know, this whole system that is like. Okay, I'm there for this. I'm definitely gonna get lynched. I don't like the whole idea of army. As in, not the people, not the soldiers, not the people on the ground, on the foot. They're great people, no doubt. I know. I have a lot of friends. I know a lot of people, amazing people. Everything they say, is like how they border pe lad rahe hain so that we can sleep peacefully. That is, a lot of it is actually true. They are genuinely like they go above and beyond, but they shouldn't have to. The idea, the industrial complex, the machinery that feeds on them being this nice and helpful and willing to go above and beyond is stupid. Imagine there's like this department of the government funded by the taxpayer money to go and kill the same department of another country who's also funded by their taxpayer money. Is in a country like India, in a country like US, where there's illiteracy, there's homelessness, there is fucking people dying, kids dying because of malnutrition. In US, kids dying because of school shootings. And you decide to use taxpayer money to go kill people with other taxpayers' money? Like, what the fuck are you? Get your priorities straight. We don't need a nuclear bomb. We need food for everyone. It's like this whole idea, and it is all based. It is all like run on basis of these very nice, very good soldiers who actually want to do something great for their country. Like these very nice people who are actually there to, like serve my motherland. And they're like, okay, so, you want to serve your motherland? Let's send them in a far off country to fight somebody else's war, which is not even our problem. And if we win, we'll get oil. If we don't win, well, you are the one dying. We are not. But even in this movie, the guy who checked off Kyoto from the list, he was not the one dropping the bombs.
Yeah.
He was not the one actually killing people.
Yeah.
That is a problem. Like how, it's like passing the command and facing the guilt,
Yeah, because the onus doesn't come up to him, right? Because he's not the one, because he's not even created the bomb.
Yeah.
And he's not also being the guy who's going to drop the bomb off, right? So he's just the guy who's calling shots.
So, have you watched Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
So there's this guy, Ned Stark. Ned Stark says, I think no, somebody says, maybe one of his children says when Ned Stark is dead or something. It's like Ned Stark always used to say that the king who passes the judgment shall swing the sword,
Hmm.
which I believe is very true. It should be like that. The king who passes the judgment shall swing the sword. You should have the, and I think if I'm not wrong, in Game of Thrones they say that it is because if the king doesn't have the courage to look the person in the eye before swinging the sword, before killing him, he has no right to kill the person, which is like a very strong thing. Which the reason so much bullshit happens in countries around the world is because people don't have to do that anymore, bro. You can just be like, you look very terroristy to me this morning. इसको जेल में डालो. He looks very terroristy this morning.
This is also kind of subtly highlighted in the film as well. I mean, because there's a whole track of the FBI and the army guys being against communism, right? And Oppenheimer kind of supports communism in a very different way.
Yeah, he's like more open to it.
Open to it. Yeah.
He doesn't see them as.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you see that as well in the film. I mean, and there's also one scene I think during the isotopes discussion that's going on. But there's another thing that I think Louis Strauss' character itself, I mean Robert's character itself says that Roosevelt kind of created the UN.
Yeah, correct.
I mean, you created the nuclear bomb, and then for peace and safety,
You made
the United Nations. I mean, you can see how these people dealt with those situations in a very hypocritical way. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean,
but when you look at history, especially history post World War II, US has been doing US has sort of mastered the art of doing this, right? Like, let's talk big shit. Let's say, oh, we need to free the people and establish democracy so that we can go get oil from that country. That's been like their thing. So it doesn't really come. This was basically practicing that. This was like practicing it at home before they could, go and lie broadly and openly. Like when you see what they did in Afghanistan. What did they exactly do in Afghanistan? Like what happened, like, all these trillions of dollars wasted, 10 odd years wasted, and then what happened exactly?
so they said that they'll form a stable government and
Which they did.
take care of the entire Afghanistan country, right?
Yeah.
And then kind of recently, I think 2 years back, right? These guys
21,
21, these
yeah,
guys
yeah.
pulled off saying that we are liberating you.
We are done.
Then,
We are liberating ourselves.
And then kind of giving the entire country back to Taliban.
Yeah.
So the main point there was like Taliban was created because of you guys.
Yeah, which is true, yes.
Yeah, Taliban was created because of you guys, and then you kind of say that we are freeing this country and leaving it, and again giving that back to terrorists.
So I saw this meme back when our elections was happening, and this year in the election, a lot of people were disheartened. Like, what's the point of voting? Nothing happens, nothing changes in this country, right? So I saw this meme that if you feel your effort to go and vote doesn't matter. Remember, US spent 10 years and some $7 trillion to replace Taliban with Taliban.
So they've been doing it. I mean, because obviously they consider themselves as a superpower, right? I mean, these countries, the US, the UK, and some countries, maybe in the Europe, they consider that they are superpowers. They believe in this ideology that they are the ones who are running the entire world.
They are somehow, yeah.
And they need kind of hold on certain places in the entire world, right? Like the entire Russia-Ukraine war has somewhere been linked with the US, right? The US wanting to support Ukraine and Ukraine going against Russia's policies, and then the war getting started. Similarly, they've done that with the India-Pakistan conflict as well.
Many a times.
They've supplied weapons to Pakistan.
Gladly.
In the past.
Yeah, which turned out great, didn't it?
So they do know. I mean, they do know how to control world politics. I mean, how
Very
to
well.
kind of be in favor of some countries and bring back some countries, control some.
I really
countries.
love how
the Israel thing as well.
Yeah, correct.
The entire Israel
Palestine thing,
army
yes.
tech everything is from the US.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the funding, or let's say the tech comes from
Yeah,
there.
yeah. The interesting part is how like this movie tells you all of this, but through like this perspective of one guy, one physicist.
Hmm.
I think that is the real fun part where it's like
Yeah, because I think since the bomb was created by him, right? So that was the best way to kind of bring it out.
and it's also fun. It's also really clever how they have tried to kept all these big political topics that divide people.
People, yeah,
Right, like people
That's
are
how,
like, yeah,
package,
they have kept all of that underlying.
underlined, yeah,
It's only if you are smart you'll get it.
get it, yeah.
On the surface, it's all about like this guy and his guilt about creating the bomb. Right. For example, one thing I noticed is he goes to somewhere in Europe to deliver this lecture,
Dutch lecture at the beginning.
and when he's going in the train,
He meets this Isodar Rabi.
yeah, and he says, "Do you feel our kind is not invited here anymore?" And he says, "What, physicist?" And that's like a subtle, because this was right before World War II. No, this was right before World War II. Yeah.
42 or something.
And like this is when the anti-Jew, anti-Semitic
Semitic,
sentiment, sort of like this environment was being created in Germany. It was quite warm. It was quite ripe. The environment was there. Instead of explaining all of that, instead of making it political, they just kept it with a joke. And you see throughout the movie, there are many times like this where they have commented on politics,
yeah.
but they've kept it hush hush.
I think that was maybe that might be a call from Chris Nolan himself. He doesn't create political stuff. I mean, look at his previous films. There's not much highlights of politics. I mean, even if a film like Interstellar, where they focus on the entire space thing and the NASA trying to create a separate space station. There's just one line in Interstellar as well where he says that people wouldn't want NASA to spend money on space stations while their own people are kind of dying of hunger.
Yeah.
So that's been put in subtly in a lot of his films. In Dark Knight as well, if you see, I mean,
It has been always a underlying.
underlying thing. He doesn't kind of highlight
Because see,
it
here's the
much.
thing about politics. People don't. Even I used to think this way that I'm not into politics. I don't like politics. I only want to talk about things that affect me, right? Like there's things like around me. I don't care about politics. I'm not a political person. The truth is, politics affects
Yeah.
everyone more than anything else.
Anything else, yeah.
Like you're watching a cricket match, you think Virat Kohli is gonna come at your home and teach you how to bat or whatever. You think you're watching F1 because of what exactly? Like you think a lot of these things, cricket, F1 or movies, everything affects us, but nothing at the same magnitude as politics does. Like if your petrol, if your fuel, if your electricity bill is way too fucking high this month than it was last month, it's not because Lewis Hamilton finished race 3 seconds faster.
Yeah, because these people in power, right, they have, I mean, a lot at stake and they are the ones commanding us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they can do a lot of things that they want to, and they can also do certain things that they don't want to.
To keep
Even
the,
if
to
it's
keep the long-term interests
even if
in
it's
place.
even if it's good for the people.
Exactly.
They have this decision to kind of, if they want to, what do you say, help out a certain section of people,
or not, depending on the long-term political
aspirations
situations,
or something like that. So they do it accordingly, right? They're
Correct.
like strategically done things,
Yeah.
planned
And
out.
it's really lovely how it's like Nolan has shown all of this in the movie.
Yeah, but it's very subtle.
Because like you cannot make Oppenheimer without showing the politics in US around. I was like there's this round table thing that you mentioned, and there is George Bush the senior is sitting on the table. You could not have made it without that.
Without that, yeah.
There is a faint mention of this guy. What is his name?
Kennedy.
Kennedy. Yes.
Kennedy, he's the one who kind of
You cannot.
votes him out, right?
You cannot like make that movie without mentioning Kennedy. Like it's like it's like you can't be like so we fought bravely against whom? Never mind, we just fought bravely. But against whom?
One thing is that I mean at least in Hollywood or movies made outside, they have this liberty of taking out names. I mean, direct names.
True
They
that.
kind of don't have to hide it out or
Yes.
replace it with some random name. That's not possible here, right? Need those clearances or maybe at least those NOCs from people on whom you're making. And even if you're making, you can't kind of delve more into their own reality or
You cannot show them in a
other
negative light because then of
negative
course
or
they'll not
dark
give the NOC.
NOC, yeah. So that's one thing which is more, I mean, very good at their end over there
Correct.
for making these biopics.
True that. Yeah, okay, man. With that said, I don't think I have any more points left to go. The sound design is amazing. You should have watched it in IMAX if you missed it. At least get like good home theater speakers or something with a nice big subwoofer. Yeah, I was watching the movie yesterday with a friend. He points out, the lines are written very poetically. Like, for example, you can lift the stone without being ready for the snake. My friend pointed out, I'm sure this is not how Oppenheimer or anybody talked back then or how people talk now.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that's really annoying. That breaks the illusion of it being a biopic for me.
I don't think so. At the end of it, you're still watching a movie, right? Even though it's based on real life or it's a biopic. Obviously, it's a movie. It's a 3-hour long movie or a 2-hour long movie that you're watching.
That's what I've told him. It's not a documentary.
Yeah, if it because if you see and break down the movie, it's actually a documentary. The entire room conversation. That's
It's a docu-movie.
Docu-movie kind of. Yeah. It would give you that feel.
It has taken a bunch of creative liberties.
Yeah, if you don't take those liberties, if you don't have Niels Bohr saying that, can you hear the music? You won't have that momentum, right? Like that moment he says that, and you have that entire music background score taking off, which is titled "Can You Hear the Music?" With that, all those violin strings playing out. So you won't.
It won't be a movie.
It won't be a movie, right?
It will be boring to watch.
Obviously, you need those moments, right? And even if like the explosion stuff itself, like the visual playing out and the sounds coming back, if you don't have those moments, then it's not going to be a movie. There's one moment towards the end of the film as well. I mean, the final interrogations that are going between Oppenheimer and Roger Robb kind of interrogated him.
Yeah.
So that's one of the final culminating moments in the film where he's constantly pointing out at him and getting him out of it, saying, did you believe in the making of the bomb? When you made the nuclear bomb, why didn't you support the hydrogen bomb? It's a very cut back moment that is going on. And at that moment, I realized he's not kind of intercutting with those stomping or the explosions going on in the background. The intercutting kind of happens between Roger Robb and Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer's character.
And suddenly when it kind of booms off at the end, there's a very flash out. The entire screen turns white.
Yeah.
Through those lights or whatever. To create that, he himself was not sure at the moment why did he made the nuclear bomb, and now he realizes the repercussions, so he's going out to stop the hydrogen bomb. True. So I like those moments in the film.
True that. Any other points you have?
I think so. You need those cinematic moments, right? Because without that, then it's going to be a blank film again.
Yeah. Anything else you noted? Any other points you have?
Anything? The choice of music, I think. It's mostly, I think, a violin-based score that he's used. And he's not collaborated with Hans Zimmer, I mean.
Which is surprising.
I
think he hasn't done that in a long time.
Yeah, he didn't do it for Tenet and now for Oppenheimer. Because Hans Zimmer, I guess, was busy with the Dune scores. Yeah.
But I think putting violin is also very period specific, at least in my head.
Period specific.
When I hear violin, I think of classical music.
I think and also school. It kind of brings about the feel of a tragedy that's going to unfold. Yeah.
It's like tragedy and greatness.
Yeah. Greatness both. And tragedy unfolding.
It's like the Titanic.
Titanic, yeah.
It's like if Titanic, if there was like a instrument to represent Titanic, it would be a violin because it's both grand, luxurious, and it's also gonna sing.
Correct, huh? Because it gives the feel like
of being grand and luxurious and also being tragedy.
Yeah. Well, there are moments, right? I mean, if you see his whole track with Jean Tatlock or his relation with his wife, I mean, they were not. I mean, they could have delved in more. I mean, in with those two characters.
I think they kept his personal life just
Just
as much
a bit
needed for
sidelined.
the story.
Yeah, because there are like bits and pieces of it. I mean, the kind of when he marries off his wife,
Yeah,
and then they have a kid.
it's just enough to cover the
Yeah,
story.
the kind of the depression his wife is going through
With
after
the,
having a kid,
yeah.
and then her problems with him because of his affair with
With her,
Jean that long.
and like when that comes
Yeah.
out in the hearing in
Yeah,
public,
so they were like bits
Yeah.
and pieces, but the payoff moment was great when Emily
Bring in
Blunt
the
kind of
sheets.
sits off in front of the interrogator and he's kind of back and forth slashing her out, but she's kind of planned it out everything that I am going to say it in this way.
yeah,
So the final clash that happens, that was pulled off very great in a great way. I also liked the Einstein angle completely because the film starts with Einstein itself.
That is, I think, my favorite scene.
Yeah.
The line like that's gonna really live with me forever.
Which one?
Like where he says to Einstein, "You remember I said with the atom bomb we might
when I
just set the
came
world
to you
to
with
fire.
the calculations, yeah.
Yeah, we might just set the
Did
world
you?
on fire."
I believed in it.
Yeah, no, he says, no, there's this whole theory, right? If you explode atom bomb, the whole environment might start catching fire. He says, you remember when I told you we might burn the whole world, or we might just the whole air,
Blow it up.
yeah, we might just have.
Hmm.
And that is amazing. Like that I think is the caution for our generation. That is the caution. Stop putting tech in everything. You don't need a smart fridge. Hyperbole, you may need a smart fridge and a therapist.
Yeah, because the way he pulled it off, I mean, there are three instances in the film where he shows the same scene from three different perspectives. Like the first one starts with him introducing, I mean, I think the first one is through Strauss' perspective, where he sees Einstein not replying him back, and that's the starting point.
Of the
I don't
grudge.
know what he kind of said
He
to
told
Einstein.
yeah.
And then you see the perspective from Einstein's perspective in the
Yes.
middle of the film somewhere where
Yes.
Oppenheimer actually visits. And the final one where we see it actually after knowing that Louis Strauss kind of fixed everything around and made those trials.
Yeah, at the end you see from
Oppenheimer's perspective.
Oppenheimer.
I think.
So the fun thing is also, it's one scene, one conversation between Oppenheimer and Einstein. You get to hear different parts of it from different people's perspective. When you see from Robert Downey Jr.'s Strauss's perspective, you just see Einstein was disappointed and sad after that, and a mix of sad and disappointed and angry. When you see from Einstein's perspective, you hear him say that these are the calculations. I think there is a very slight chance that when the atom bomb explodes, it will the whole air will catch fire.
And the burning the atmosphere is near zero.
Yeah, it's near zero,
like
but like there's a chance.
Yeah.
And then the second half of the conversation is so he says, yeah, this. The second half of the conversation is, remember this.
Yeah.
I think we might just have.
Because he came back, he approached Einstein before.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
before starting
exactly,
the work on the Trinity.
But like this whole conversation happens at one year,
year.
but you see it from three different people's perspective, and you get three different information in that.
Because that's done well, because that actually conveys the emotions, right? These characters are going through.
And it's like emotions that you would only understand after you watch that much part of the movie. Like at the beginning, you just started the movie, you don't know anything about anyone. So you genuinely see from Strauss's perspective, you are also curious that what might he have said Einstein. Like what could he have said, right? When you watch half the movie, you are a bit in your science mindset and you are seeing that, okay, why would they be thinking like this? Like, oh, it's okay. It's like it's the same reason, like why probably पहले के ज़माने में जब कोई बीमार होता था तो काट के उसको खून निकालते थे. So it's the same thing. It's just like one of those stupid science things that we used to think.
So there's a interesting fourth perspective as well, apart from these three perspectives. So the final senator meeting that's happening, I mean, they're sitting in that hall and this character comes up, Dr. Hill ka character.
Yeah.
Was played by him here. नाम नहीं आता
Martian.
ना
Martian guy.
नहीं Martian नहीं. हमारा ये जिसने बोहेमियन रैप्सोडी का बायोपिक ना, रामी मलिक का जो कैरेक्टर है, सो ही कम्स अप एंड ही टेस्टिफाइज इन फ्रंट ऑफ देम, राइट? तो he tells the people sitting there he has a grudge on Oppenheimer because he didn't know कि no one knows on that day क्या हुआ when Oppenheimer was there, Einstein was there, and this was there. In तीनों के बीच में what happened, no one knows actually. So that is another perspective.
That is when you get the
So possibly in the film there could be thing कि तीनों के perspectives were different. That justifies it.
Yes, makes sense.
All the three had their own perspectives.
Completely different perspectives. Yeah. Yes. There's also a lovely learning at the end of the movie. You know, Einstein tells him that one day they'll call you on the stage. They'll give you a medal and
that's a typical signature thing that
a lot of great things, and it will not be for you. You have already lived your life. It is for the people after you, like the scientists coming after you. I think it's a great lesson for us the viewers. Like, you know, like, isn't that true for everyone? Like, I was just thinking about this. You know, today you may aspire, a young kid, 18, 19, 20 years old, he or she might aspire one day, let's have a Ferrari. I want to have a nice mansion somewhere in Bandra or whatever, or wherever you live, right? The thing is, by the time you'll achieve that, you'll have spent a huge chunk of your life, unless until you've scammed people or you were already born to rich parents or something. If you've genuinely earned it, you will have spent a huge chunk of your life to get there. You may have a Ferrari at that point, but you would be too old and busy to take that Ferrari out every day.
Experience it. Yeah.
You will take that Ferrari out once a week, once a month. It will be your weekend car at best. Once a month car at right. Similarly, like, you may buy like this giant, beautiful, amazing mansion wherever. The truth is, by the time you get there, you'll be so busy, old, rich. You think Mukesh Ambani, he wakes up and he's like, I'll go to my first swimming pool today. And then 1 घंटे बाद he's like, what time हो गया? Let's go to the second swimming pool now. Like, of course not, right? Of course not.
See, that's the thing. Most people do for the kick of it. I need to own this thing. I need to own that thing. But obviously not.
It's like a reminder, you know. It's like, enjoy what you have right now. You don't have a swimming pool, you have a shower. Enjoy the shower. Have a good time.
But if you have the kick of it, then go then.
Like, it's not saying that, you know, I'm not trying to say ki don't aspire to have 5 swimming pools. I'm saying if you have, like, if God gave you a shower today, be grateful and have a shower. There are people who don't have that. Right, like, so be grateful, enjoy it. Like, if you have a pastry today, enjoy it. You know, touch wood, God will give you a whole cake tomorrow. But abhi pastry hai, pastry ko enjoy. Right.
Because the last scene where he pulls it off, that's his signature scene that he does in all of his films. Like, there are a couple of montages going on, and then he has this traditional voiceover of a character going on. He's done that in all his movies.
I remember from the Prestige very well.
From Prestige he's doing that, I think, and he did it for Dark Knight. Then Dark Knight Rises. I feel the best montage he's done is for Dark Knight Rises.
Okay.
Where you have that entire Christian Bale doing an Alfred ka voiceover, I think. Who's that actor? Uska naam nahi
makes sense, na? Alfred ka in that character, in that story also, it makes a lot of sense.
The way those montages play out, it's kind of a mini story that's taking place. But for this film, he did it for a very brief amount of time, and that to showcase the relationship of him with his brother, then the teller's character, and couple of surrounding or bhi characters the Rabi Abika. And his wife also had a small thing in that. And then he cut back to the actual climax of Einstein and him confronting Pura.
Yeah, correct. Cool. Anything from your side? Mera, that's it from me.
I think we are good.
Okay, cool. Cool then. We'll call it done at this point. Thank you for watching.
Great.
We'll see you in the next one. If I haven't been lynched by then.